Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nitchman.
Our guest today is Johnathan Holland of Curex. In Jonathan's first business, it was not clear what his bank was charging him to simply send money to a country. He quickly realized how expensive the hidden foreign exchange fees were, taking up to nearly 5% in fees. It was out of this deceitful system of hidden fees that Curex was born. Curex provides an honest and transparent way to send money worldwide with only taking a fee of 1%. Find out more at curexe.com. Hi, Johnathan. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Christina. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm so grateful to have you out here. You're the founder of Curex, a Toronto-based startup. It's making it easier and more affordable for small businesses to send money worldwide. And as I told you before the interview, a lot of our businesses are looking to branch out, up-level their business. They might be out there for more than 5 years, 150,000, maybe 200, $500,000, $500,000, but they're now looking to take it into the $1 million mark and get out there and meet the global market. And I know you guys are going to be able to help them. But before we go to sharing all your wisdom in that area, share with our audience a little bit about your background, what brought you to creating Curex.
First of all, Christina, I think you just made my business sound way more exciting than it actually is. It's amazing. But yeah, for me, from my background story, I went to university because I wanted to be a banker. I fell in love with capital markets and big business, and I was always fascinated about global trade and how economics worked. So it was fitting for me, valuing stocks and getting into the stock market, that I would go get a degree, have the potential to go work for an investment bank, and then I could work with lots of different kinds of companies, and I would be this investment banker. That was my kind of path, I guess, for myself. Mm-hmm. And I guess what happened is, I was a super nerd. I was like the president of my finance club, and I was doing stock pitches on the weekends for fun, different competitions and that. And to be honest, Christina, I applied for a bunch of different investment bank jobs when I was just getting out of school, and nobody gave me an interview.
Wow.
So out of that, I guess I just had to rethink my life and what I was doing. And it was in that kind of discovery that I realized, well, banking is one of the last kind of industries, with healthcare and others included, that haven't really been affected by new technology that's out there and the potential to provide better user experiences and obsess over the customer. We obviously saw that with Blockbuster and Netflix story, or, hotels and Airbnb. So I looked at banking and I was like, well, this is an opportunity for me to still be in banking, but I can have an opportunity to be one of the disruptors kind of in that space. And after a bunch of, research and digging deeper, I found out specifically how complicated it was to send a wire transfer. And all I could think of is it's just sending money. It should be as easy as texting or sending an email. And I think Elon Musk had that vision for PayPal. He wanted it to be as easy as sending money as sending an email around the world. And it didn't work out too well, and so we still had these complications. So basically, just born out of that, I decided to start this company and started to try and find new ways to provide a better experience to the customer in the world of banking in general, I guess. So that's kind of my upbringing, I guess, in a nutshell.
I love your story. And this has happened to so many of our entrepreneurs who've either listened in or been a guest, is that they found a problem in the world, in the global market, and they said, okay, I have this problem in my business, or I see a solution. Or sometimes something will happen where you're going in a direction you want to go and it's not quite working out. Like in your case, I want to be an investment banker. It's not happening. Where do I go from here? And by the basics of a need, and then seeing a solution that you can bring to the marketplace is what brings this beautiful recipe of a wonderful new product or service that you can help the world with.
Yeah, life tends to throw you those curveballs, every now and then. So.
Absolutely. And what I like here, and I just told you before the interview, I deal with a lot of businesses that struggle dealing with sending money abroad or working with global markets with the whole industry of the banking. And it really isn't easy. They make it tough. And even when I work for some of these companies, they're like, I'm just trying to get money to the Middle East. Why is it so hard? Mm-hmm. And so tell us how it works at Curex when they come to you and say a small business wants to get work with a new global market business overseas? How do you structure it where they can easily send money?
Well, with our platform, it's fairly simple in that you go to our website, you can sign up for an account with us.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take a couple minutes, maybe 3 minutes to do. Once you're set up, then you're able to set up what we call recipients. So that's basically who you need to send the money to, whether it's an employee that you have over in India, or whether you're paying a supplier in the Middle East for goods that you're importing. You put in their information, and then you basically connect with your online bank, and it allows you to make that payment through our system. And what we do is we help you exchange your currency to whatever currency that you need, and we send a wire transfer. But we've basically automated that whole process, so you don't have to walk down to a bank, which a lot of our customers still have to do, or you don't have to call in to talk to a banker. And they're going to give you what the exchange rate is, which is really just a fancy way of hiding what fees they're charging. And, which we think is not the best way to build a relationship, by hiding things from, the individual or business that you're working with. Yeah. And essentially we just, built a system where we have a network of banks around the world, and we transfer the funds through those banks, and it just makes it a more efficient system. And the reason we're able to offer cheaper pricing and consistent pricing is we've not only negotiated with our bank partners on better rates, they're locked in through their APIs, which is just our computer system talks to theirs, and we automatically lock in the payments. So it's kind of a whole automated process.
Wow.
Makes it easier.
Wow. Now, how does it work tax-wise? Because you mentioned that some businesses can, if they want, have a new employee set up in, say, India. How does it work with paying taxes or stuff like that through their government? Is there something you have to work out on that side tax-wise, or is that totally a separate entity from working with your biz?
Well, it'd definitely be something that you would ask your accountant about more in depth. But what we do send you is a receipt. Okay. And that receipt will show you exactly what rate we charge you, which is always just whatever the market rate is. It's called the mid-market rate. Okay. That's essentially what the middle ground between a buyer and a seller. The bank would exchange billions of dollars between themselves at what's called the interbank rate. That's like a very, very tiny sliver from that mid-market rate. And essentially what we get is we get access to that interbank rate as if we're exchanging billions of dollars, and we add a 1% kind of spread on top of that. So essentially what we do, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought now, but we charge that spread, and that's how they're able to send the funds for cheaper, essentially.
Cool. And so what I'm wondering, through building this, because I know having the idea in your head and seeing that there's a problem that we can help, how did you come about to bringing it to the marketplace? Because here's the idea in your head. Now, how did you decide that this is what CureX is going to look like and how we're going to be able to help people? How did that work out?
Well, I mean, the first step, I know this is a highly regulated business. So I knew that I had to learn what laws I have to follow, what regulators I have to get licensing with, and basically follow the rules to start. So that's kind of my first step for it. And I realized that there's quite a few things you have to do, but it's not entirely impossible or hard to collect all that information in an easy way and automate the flow of information to our governing body that we report to. So started there, built the whole regulatory side of the business. And then I realized that it was pretty challenging to build the bank partnerships. Like, we're offering a service that's cheaper than what a bank would offer typically. It's easier to use. And as well, it's a highly regulated industry with lots of fraud risk. And there's, our regulator obsesses over anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing. So there's quite a few things that we have to be mindful of to ensure that, the funds don't get put into the hands of a terrorist or something, terrible like that. So we had to follow all these rules and kind of build that. And then once we did that, the banks started to trust us because we had a proven system and a proven track record of essentially tracking these transactions, built the bank relationships. And then after that, now it's all about, getting the word out there and how do we let customers know we exist. And I'm sure with a big portion of the market, there's a trust factor bridge that we have to cross. Others are really fed up with their banks and they jump on our platform right away. They send money everywhere. But I'm sure there's others that know their bank's safe and they're unsure that maybe we use banks. So we're just as safe as a bank, but maybe they're unsure of that, or, there's those other hurdles that you kind of have to get through. And that was kind of the process that I went through. And I just kind of condensed a 2.5-year period into like, a couple of minutes there, but there's quite a bit of work in getting it going.
Well, it seems to me like the biggest aspect of building CureX so far has been building the trust factor, really, which is the case for any business, any small business getting started, regardless of what product or service you're bringing to the market. There's that trust factor. People do not know if what you have to offer is really something that's worth putting money on the table for, or in your case, putting their money into, because you want to be able to trust where your money's going and if it's going to make it there safely. It's funny. I use PayPal now to send all of a lot of my bills and to do a lot of my business transactions, and they've become so trustworthy to me that I trust them wherever I am in the world. And and it was that building of it. Now, what has been the biggest part for you as far as building the trust factor? Has been the biggest hurdle in building that trust factor?
Well, we haven't actually crossed that point yet, because we're still what I would call a scrappy startup. I mean, we've ramped up. We've transferred over $42 million through our system. So we're not, very early, like we're proven, there's no question. But a lot of the customers that we've received have been through networking events. I have a pretty deep network in the Toronto entrepreneurial community, and out of those relationships and providing a great experience for all of our customers, it's kind of more of a word of mouth thing so far. So, when your friend tells you, hey, PayPal's safe, it's good, you probably trust them. So that's kind of what's happened so far. But at some point, I know, Christina, that we'll hit that inflection point where we're doing so well that like we are doing outreach cold to customers, and those customers don't really know who we are. And, like you said, you've heard of PayPal, but who is CureX, and why should I switch to CureX? And so for you, Christina, sending money through PayPal costs you nothing, which is very intelligent on their part. But at the other end, that's where the costs come from. So when you're sending money to a business, the business incurs a 2.9% fee to accept the funds. And if it's in a different currency, they charge another 2.5% that's hidden. So a business will get charged 5.4% of their top line revenue. I mean, not a lot of businesses even make over 10% net margins. So, I mean, that could be half your profits on the business.
Wow.
And, there's a really high fee there. So for us to come in and charge, a fee of 1%, it's exceptionally low. But now we just have to kind of, figure out how we're going to acquire all those early majority customers. If you have ever read Crossing the Chasm, that early majority, I think there'll be a bigger trust factor that we have to deal with. Whereas right now, people are loving the product. They're jumping on it as early adopters, and it's been easy so far. So
that's so cool.
We'll have to figure this part out.
Yeah, that is so cool, John. And it's interesting because when I look at the relationship that I built with PayPal years ago, it was kind of because like, hey, a need came up. Someone needed to send me money. I said, oh, I'll just send it through PayPal. I'm like, who the heck is that? And I was a little leery. And then, they sent it over. Oh, it worked. Okay, I didn't get charged anything. And then when I saw, okay, I get charged if I do business with someone else, I didn't like that part. But what they did to make it a little easier for me is they sent me a little trusty debit card saying, oh, it'll go straight to your bank. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. But, it's little things like that over time you begin to be, oh, okay, I trust you a little bit more. Oh, I trust you a little bit more than that. And then, they have other ones out there. I forget their names, but Square something and whatever. But so there's things out there. But what I love about yours is not only do you charge such a low fee, but then you help people with global business. And that's what I'm seeing. We are in a global market. I've worked with people in Russia and Bulgaria. It's amazing. I mean, I've done consulting calls all over the world. And with this type of global market we have, you can be a business owner doing business all around the world. But there's that fear of how do I do transactions with them that are not going to really have me paying all these fees. And that's where you guys come in different than PayPal and all these other places, because you're really able to help them with the global market.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now tell me, so what were some of the misconceptions of dealing with international teams or clients? Because I'm sure it's not just like dealing with domestic, because I've dealt a lot, like I told you before the interview, with Middle Eastern teams and companies, which have a totally different culture and way of thinking and being. What have been some of your experiences?
Yeah, it's actually very fitting that you bring this up now, because I just got back early in the week. I went to China on business, and it was the first time I ever went to China. And, we landed in Beijing, went to Shenzhen, Guangzhou, went all over, and the culture of doing business there is just much different. And I also went to a trade show called Electronica, and it was massive. I was only there for probably 6 hours that day. I could have spent 3 days there, how big this thing was. And I'm talking to like Japanese suppliers, German suppliers, lots of different Chinese suppliers. And it's just lots of different types of businesses and niche products. And to be honest, there's just so much out there. It's tough to be able to kind of pick out what are the best value creation that you can do to connect businesses together. Because for us, we want to encourage international business, not only because, of course we get our 1% if we do their transactions, but it feels great to connect businesses that, help each other grow, and then it helps build those relationships globally. So it's been a very interesting, concept of like you said yourself, like reaching out to clients in Russia and all that to actually learn different cultures and how they do business. So yeah, I don't have a ton to report back on this, but I'm sure I'll do a bunch of blog posts in the future as I continue to learn, from the different cultures that I'm working with. But I think the moral of that story is like, you don't be scared to do it, because I think a lot of people these days want to think global, and I think that they want to, encourage global trade, and I think it benefits all economies too. So I think that people should just try it and just jump into it. Just like I happened to go to China and try it out, and it was interesting. I love the spicy food though; it was good.
And one thing I realize is different though sometimes is that when you talk to different cultures, they just have a different way of seeing things. Like I talked to one guy, he's a marketer. He said, I went to Asia, and you know how I do this. I go to networking events sometimes, and if they tell me something and they give me their business card, I will, once they turn around, write something on the back of a key word or point that we talked about. So that when I go home, it doesn't like leave my brain. I remembered my conversation brings back the conversation I had with that person. But this guy told me the worst thing you could do in like the Asian culture is to write on their card, especially if they see you. Because for them, that card is sacred. Like they went through the whole thing of making this card perfect, and they usually hand it to you with two hands, as if it's something like, I'm giving you a piece of me. And they want you to respect that. And they use bowing instead of like, shaking your hand. But he said he saw the reverence in it. That was not the way us Americans kind of go, hey, here's my card, here. And they just throw cards all over the place. It's a very, very different way of dealing with, I'm sacredly giving you a piece of me. Here you go. Did you encounter anything like that, or any other types of culture that was very different from the American way of doing business?
Yeah, definitely. That's a perfect example of one of them, giving your card with two hands. And when you receive the card, I guess it's a respect thing to read the card and spend some time looking at it, as opposed to just, like, in America and Canada, you would just, thanks. Okay, I'll message you, and we'll connect, and then we're gone. And I think it does boil down to that. It's just a real respect thing. Like I think if you take the time to learn, call it your target audience, I think that they respect you in turn more that you spent the time to do this. Another thing I did was with the cards, I had Mandarin translated on the other side, which isn't typical of my cards, because it would just have kind of the company logo and the information on the other side. This had the information in both English and Mandarin. And those little things I think go a long way, because I think that a lot of people, don't take the time to do that. But it's all about personal relationships. And what I experienced there was a lot of social activities first, a lot of small talk.
Yes.
The dinners were incredible. You'd be sitting around a big table, and then you'd have a kind of lazy Susan style, where it spins around and you have lots of different dishes.
Dim sum, yeah.
And I really liked that, actually, because it allowed you to get to know them a bit better before you jump into it. Whereas I think in America and Canada, we might do that, or we might go out for some drinks to connect, but we could get down to business right away, ensure there's value, and then on to the next one if we wanted to. And I think that's acceptable here. So definitely different.
It's interesting, Johnathan, because I find that there's great value sometimes when you see that in other cultures, the kind of slowing down and let's just get real and get human. Yeah. I think sometimes when we go out here for sales or pitching in the US or Canada, we're so like, okay, we're here for purpose. Let's get to it. Yeah. And let's have that beer and talk business at the same time, or golf and talk biz at the same time. Where there, it's like, hey, how's your family going? I'm like, okay, are we getting back to business now? Let's go. And it's that slowing down, realizing, okay, I'm going to disrespect my future prospect or client here if I don't just chill out and let them just chat. And I found that even here in the U.S., Johnathan, their cultures here in the U.S., like I had a client in Texas, rural Texas. It drove me crazy. He's like, to get out one sentence was like a minute. He was like, so how's it going over there? I was like, okay. Can we keep moving? But, living in New York most of my life, I'm like, bam, 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 bam. So it's remembering, taking it slow, and we can all get to the same place at the same time. But sometimes you think like the rabbit, if I just rush through things, we'll get there quicker. But sometimes you need to be the turtle.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else you've learned as far as now building your team at Curex that's been a big learning shift for you? Because as you've continued to grow your company, you've actually continued to grow your staff. Is there anything you've learned in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that, I think with any entrepreneur or founder, when you're building your business, you have to have a really strong why that really pushes you. And for me, it has nothing to do with making money or getting the fame or anything like that. For me, I have a couple things. One, I'm very patriotic, I guess, about Canada, which I'm sure you are about America.
Yeah.
And I really want to help our country, because we don't build like you guys build YouTubes, Googles, Facebooks of the world. And in Canada, we got a couple unicorns, right? We have Hootsuite or Shopify, which are $1 billion valued companies. We don't build enough of those, right? Like you guys think big. And I really want to encourage more of that in Canada, because I think it's the most dominant way to succeed in business, really. So one of my things is to help the country and show other entrepreneurs you can build something massive and you can keep going, and you don't have to sell yourself short for $10 million or whatever you're looking for. And another thing is that I'm very kind of near dear to my heart is I'm wanting to help my parents retire. And that's really big for me, because then it's not about me. It's not about, money or anything like that. And it honestly, Christina, really drives me every day to get my work done. And especially on the stuff like we all have this, where you don't really feel like doing it, but you have to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's in those moments that I think you push forward. And I think by doing this and working hard, you kind of develop yourself into this, high frequency leader, I would say. Yeah. And that helps attract the talent that you need to build a large organization and to really grow the business. So I think that the steps that I take internally to grow the business and to be as great of a leader as I can, it in turn attracts really good talent. And that helps me kind of build my high achiever team. And all the guys now are very motivated, dedicated. They can see the vision and they have confidence that we're going to execute on it. And I think that in itself is a really great way to do your hiring. And then of course there's all the, make sure your conflict resolution is good so that you can be in a boardroom and have intelligent discussions without getting too blown up or anything. And then having the different personalities and different skill sets that you need, of course, to run the business. For example, I'm not an expert on, growth hacking marketing, but my guy, Chris, my colleague, who's actually from Texas, he's an expert in this stuff. So you kind of just have to have the right people. And my CTO, he knows everything about coding. He's built and sold 3 companies before. I don't even know how to write anything to do with code.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I own a tech company, right? So you just have to find kind of those right people around you, I guess. So.
Well, I like that you mentioned that, Johnathan, about once you build up your own energy and focus and vision of where you want your company to be, I've heard like minds attract like minds. And now that you have a clear mind of the vision you want, it's easier to get people on board with that vision because now you're clear on what that is.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're not clear on it, everybody that joins, it'll be hard for them to get clear on it. And you might still work beside each other, but if you're both moving towards 2 different things, then at some point there's going to be clashes that happen. So I think it's a very important open conversation you have to have early on in the company.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned that you want to be that kind of pull for not just, you're thinking everyone in Canada, to think bigger, to think that you don't just have to stay small. Why do you think people, I find it here too, often want to just stay in a little box like, oh, this is good enough? Where do you think that comes from? Why do people not dream or think bigger?
Well, I don't think it's wrong. I think it's just preference, right? I don't think it's wrong to build up your business to $1 million in annual revenue or even 100,000 or 200,000 and have a great freelance business. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But I think that if you want to stay motivated and connect with like the highest achievers, like I obsess over Tony Robbins because he studies successful people, Oprah, Warren Buffett, what have you. Individuals are such high achievers that I think it's just an exciting thing to be a part of. So I connect with that, I guess. Like my level of, like my standards are set that high because I don't see why not. And then if I falling below that is probably pretty good anyway. So, I mean, in general, it's just, I think it's a more exciting thing to be a part of. And I think that drives you every day. But yeah, like I said, I mean, some people are very happy with a $500,000 in annual revenue business. That does really well for them. And that's actually great. And then they have time to travel and do things like, I don't have fun, quote unquote. Like, I mean, I love the business. I'm having fun every day. I don't feel like I work, but it's just my path and what I'm trying to do. And who knows, maybe when I turn, 50, that changes, but as it stands now, I'm going for it and I'm not going to stop. So
and what I see behind you is not only your family, your parents, but this bigger why. And I think that's the key to wanting to succeed more than, this is enough. That when you have this great why, for some people, it's their children. It's like, I want my children to have a legacy when I'm gone, that they could take this and build it further and I don't have to worry about them. And, some people, the why is different, but just having that really essential, I'm not just doing this for money. Because you've heard so often before, if I just won the lotto, my life would be perfect. And would it? $1 million, if, whatever it might be, it's just cash. But if you don't have, what is that why? What does that cash mean? What are you going to do with it? What is it going to do that would make your life better that you don't have right now? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the statistics show on winning the lottery that that money tends to flow right back into the rich anyway, right? It's actually interesting that people think that way.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, this has been such a fascinating talk, and I don't want people to leave without finding out how they can work with CureX today and get their business global. How can they do that?
I mean, if you'd like to contact me, Johnathan@curex.com is my email. That's JOHNATHAN. And I'm honestly, I'm not here to sell my service or anything. I just like to talk business and connect with like-minded individuals. So if anybody wants to connect, I'd be happy to hop on the phone and just chat about what you're doing. If there's any way that I can help, I'd love to reach into my network. And I think if we all have that attitude, we'll help each other grow. So I think it's a really feel-good thing. So you can look me up on LinkedIn if you'd like, Johnathan Holland. And I can follow up, Christina. I don't know if you have any notes or anything. I can send you some more info as well.
Yeah. And they can also go to CureX, CureXE.com and find out more about the company, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, Johnathan, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming to share your brilliance today on Savvy Business Radio.
Thanks so much, Christina.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.